to my audience, guys, if you've been enjoying this content, well, thank you all for being here. Hit that follow button if you haven't done so yet, right? If you stumble onto this channel and you're new to all this, well, hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on. So I'm going live. I do 7 nights a week, either here on YouTube. We always have content around for you. Content that looks a lot like this. So if you like that, or want to be part of everything that we're building, hit that follow button right now. Also, consider hitting up on social media, right? We got plenty of social media. We got Twitter, where we notify you when stuff are happening. So you want to know when stuff is happening, look at Twitter. Discord, where we do everything, including this conversation. Heart and Soul of the community happens on Discord, right? Be a part of our Discord, jump on in, be a part of the conversation, online and offline. YouTube is where you find the VODs. If you missed anything, you've already missed a lot. Click like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Consider becoming a YouTube member, hitting that join button, supporting us that way. Also, of course, there is just sub into this channel. We have emotes, exclamation for emotes in chat. We got our emotes. You got our emotes. You also get ad-free viewing. So if you want to get this whole thing, no interruptions whatsoever, then consider helping out this channel by subbing to it. Only $5 to do so helps us out a ton. Thank you for everyone who's been supporting. Though, thank you. Okay, we're moving on. Next topic. In the U.S., under certain circumstances, we allow sexual contact between young adults and older teenagers. These are called Romeo and Juliet laws. But does this make sense? If society is concerned about protecting children from potentially predatory behavior of older individuals, why open up this exception? And if you are in favor of these laws, at what point does the age gap become unacceptable? We're doing the whole thing with age gap. Hopefully there's a... I'm always concerned about doing this type of topic. Oh my God, because people don't... because of the audience. I'm talking about you guys. Because you guys freak the fuck out when we get on this topic. But if we all listen, right, we all just take a beat and assume the best of everyone else, maybe this can not devolve into a fucking mess. We will see, though. It's up to you. We'll start at the top. My man, Bam. Oh, but Scuffed Broadcast, thank you for gifting a sub as well. Thank you for that kindness. It helps us out a lot. Yeah, gift subs, gift bits, or sub yourself. Only $5 to help us out. If you have Amazon Prime, says Prime Gaming, use that on this channel. Okay, Bam, please.
Yeah, I think that my position on this is like, generally, if you think about who these laws are for, they're for high schoolers, and some people graduate high school as early as 16. I had friends that did that, and some people as late as 19, 20. It can get, like I said, and that's obviously on the later end. But I think that if these people who are all by my standard kids, I think really young people, can share classrooms, it's unreasonable to expect that they'll, never have any attraction to each other or never have any interest in each other romantically. So I think that it does make sense to have these protections in place for people who literally share the same, hallways, bathrooms, etc.
Black Toy.
Yeah, I think that Romeo and Juliet laws are inconsistent. The entire idea of laws against sex with children is because we recognize that people under the age of majority don't have the judgment to be able to consent to risky behavior. In this case, risky behavior being sexual activity. There's evidence to suggest that sexual activity when you're a child is bad for you, and both in terms of long-term outcomes, in terms of psychological health, in terms of potential physical health. And we recognize that you should at least be able to consent by societal standards in order to engage in that behavior, just like we require you to be 18 to buy property or serve in the military, ideally. And so I think age should probably be taken into account when we decide the punishment. But no, I'm not in favor of Romeo and Juliet laws. And I also don't think 18-year-olds should be forced to go to high school.
Dionysus.
Okay. Romeo and Juliet laws are super varied across the states. It's all a matter of the age consent in that state, etc. As someone who's, I guess, seeing everyone here is the most experience, or like the closest experience to high school still in this time. You see these relationship dynamics all the time. A junior's dating a freshman, and by the time the freshman graduates high school, the junior would be already halfway through college. And I see that as perfectly reasonable. You have these people who grew up together, people in the same dynamics, very, very similar age range, and it really doesn't matter. A lot of times, those relationships are more healthy than people who are older of the 18 years old age, in like seeing the people around me, especially like my parents. My mom, when she had me, was like 24, and my dad was like 32. That's a fucking huge age range, but really that doesn't matter in vast more society, because we said, hey, this is the number and it's above that number. I don't get why society would accept that and not accept like a 16 and an 18-year-old, for example, or stuff like that. So that's my views on that. I really don't see as much of a big deal for high schoolers to be intermingling.
Thank you, Ashley. Muted.
I generally have a similar position to, I think, Dionysus on this, which is it just like in terms of maturity, I don't think 16 to 19, for instance, I don't think that like I definitely grew in maturity from like 19 to 21-ish, right? And even like around that, but like I would generally say that like that just general age group from like 16 to like 20 is the definitely there's more maturity on the higher end, but like it's not significant to the point of where I don't think I think that generally we're okay with people under 18 having sex with each other, so it would be weird to say that like the second you go over 18 or the second that you become 18 you can't have sex with anyone under 18. Just it's pretty strange.
Paul.
Yeah, the distinction between a child and an adult is obviously a necessary one. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But we have to draw it arbitrarily somewhere. And there's absolutely no way to do it other than drawing an arbitrary line. And when you draw an arbitrary line, there's going to be negative consequences of that. Like the example that Dionysus gave of, okay, if you're, 16 and 17, and you've been dating for 5 years and having sex, and then the day that, one of them turns 18, now it's suddenly statutory rape. It's like, the Romeo and Juliet laws are clearly designed to remedy, to some degree, the degree of arbitrariness in the distinction between a child and adult. And that kind of goes back to the whole, what we were arguing about previously is like, okay, well, we have a general rule, and then how do we address the arbitrariness of, well, at what point is someone really a man, at what point is someone really a woman, and how does that go into policy relating to prisons and whatnot. So I don't see any reason why someone wouldn't be in favor of exceptions on a case-by-case basis, carefully applied.
Okay, Fanatic.
Oof, people are showing their intelligence here. I think, again, this conversation is going to really devolve into the same nonsense, but you're going to watch it happen. It's that these conversations are always best had when you're like making broad descriptions. But with like everything else, there are going to be like certain parts of it that are subjective. But we as a society recognize we don't have the resources, the time, or the energy to sit here and start like literally putting in like trying to like carefully select for each individual case to determine whether or not they fit it. So instead, we just create some like broad sweeping barrier, right? So for example, like when we say that maturity is at adulthood, right? There's plenty of 18-year-olds who are far less more mature than some of the than 15-year-olds. There are plenty of 21-year-olds who are more mature than some of the 30-year-olds, right? Like, but the thing is, we can't know. It's way too subjective. It's unknowable. So then instead of us like trying to say, well, we'll just make a determination about like some other metrics, it's like, no, we'll just create this basic metric. 18-year-old, you're an adult, and at that point, then you should have the maturity that whatever, and then we can create rules based on that. Again, everyone else in these kind of conversations who are used to being terminally online are used to like kind of having this conversation where it's like, oh, well, let's talk about the perfect limits that we would be able to do in a society that 100% subscribe to my needs and whatever. It's stupid. But back to the Romeo and Juliet laws, I think that part, they obviously make sense in a sense that like if you look at like a relationship where we say that like it's about protecting maturity. Like it's not like when you hit the 18 years old, you're just like magically suddenly more mature. It's that what we're expecting is that by the time you hit 18, you should have accomplished specific things in life which start moving you into a different bracket, right? Now at this point, you're allowed to make more decisions for yourself. You're more easily employable. You're sometimes going off to college, literally like leaving the nest and all of these things. So we associate that age with adulthood for people who choose to do so. Some people can just stay at home and do nothing. And some people, even through doing those things, are rather immature. But we recognize that just the idea that somebody got over that threshold doesn't really
create some magic maturity or something. It doesn't confirm maturity. So because of that, it's probably reasonable to say even though you're past this threshold, that will still create some like minimal limits that allow you to still have interactions. Does it make sense to have a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old who have been dating for like literally years and like for 3 consecutive years, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, he turned 18, so now he's raping you? That sounds stupid, and I think everyone else can see that too.
Yeah, I think the Romeo and Juliet laws make sense. I think typically it's like a 3-year age gap. That seems reasonable. I think as like a 33-year-old, thinking back on it, I think, hey, it's probably not healthy for 15-year-olds to be having sex ever. But when I was 15, I was having sex. When I was 12, I was having sex. Right? Like this shit's gonna happen. Kids do weird shit sometimes, even though it's as an adult, you think back on it, you think, oh shit, that's pretty weird. And yeah, I think the Romeo and Juliet laws make sense. I think it's much more interesting to me, like, considering whether like 18 actually makes any sense. I mean, we've had a few people say it's like arbitrary, and I think it's true that it's pretty arbitrary, right? Like 18, but like, how arbitrary do we think that is? Like in like action. Like, I'm 33 years old. I couldn't imagine having sex with an 18-year-old. But I don't think that's the case across the board. I imagine some of you guys here, these all seem pretty, a little older. I think some of you would probably have sex with an 18-year-old. And you'd be legally in your rights to do so, right? But I think a lot of people would say that you're kind of a creep for doing so. So, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think the laws make sense. I think, to me, the interesting part of the conversation is much more like, what happens the day they turn 18. Does that just open them up to be fucked by 50-year-olds? Because right now that seems to be the case, and I don't know if that's okay.
Yeah, we can expand this to age gap in general. That might be interesting. Kyosan, please.
So I don't think it's just about maturity, but I agree that's obviously important. Different people develop at different rates. Kids literally have formed brains, especially at like 16, between that like 16 and 18 range. It does, like, your frontal lobe grows a lot, which is the part that informs the decision stuff. At least I've taken like a semester in the child psychology stuff because it's like relevant to my work, but that's still nothing. Okay, so I'm still gonna say dumb shit, so keep that in mind, all right, when I say this stuff. I'm most likely gonna say shit wrong. Yeah, just keep that in mind, anyone who's listening or anyone else on the panel. This is probably like one of my more conservative opinions. Okay, it's really fucked that a lot of people take advantage of a lot of people without life experience or with undeveloped bodies, or anything like that. It's really, really fucked. Like even like Doobie said, I think he's like hit the nail on the head. That 50-year-old and 18-year-old relationship is so fucked up. That person has literally no life experience, no experience with relationships, no experience of anything. Barely understands consent at that point, right? Like, it's very, very hard. And the difference between, I think, like a 19 and a 16-year-old, I think, is actually like pretty significant, in terms of having that life experience. And there are a lot of people who go out of their way and take advantage of people who are underage. I see it all the time, especially my line of work. I've seen it like several times already, right? It's fucked up. It's really fucked up.
Do?
I'm a youth support worker. So I've got to be very careful with the things I say during this discussion, okay?
Yeah, sus.
But shut the fuck up. So I think it's important to have laws in some way. I'd probably be more conservative with them in terms of like, this is like probably my most conservative opinion, in that like I wouldn't even be against like raising the laws to some extent, or even like shrinking them down. Because the protection is like way just important, and like there's so many fucked up people who just take advantage of kids and take advantage of young people. It's a hard world out there, and there are a lot, and we understand that like people just don't have the life experience or even the mental capacity to understand when they're being taken advantage of sometimes. So the legal system exists to protect those kinds of people.
Okay, up to the.
Yeah, I would say that like realistically speaking, I would be super in favor of raising the age of consent to like just generally like general age of consent, like any age is open to like 21. I do think that like 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds don't even though you can go to war, even though you can smoke cigarettes, I do think that I don't think you should be able to do those things either. I don't think that 18-year-old is an adult just because you've finished high school.
What about a vote?
Ma'am, do you think that an 18-year-old should be able to own property?
Maybe not.
Raise it to
It
21.
depends on if they're dependent.
What about vote? What about voting? What about voting?
Nope. Raise it to 21.
Wait, but why?
Oh,
I
no,
want to know
no,
why
I think
21.
I think voting.
Actually,
I want-
what it should
You
be
like
is-
that one,
It should be.
This-
It should be.
I
it
do
should be
like that one a
20
lot,
It
yeah.
should be 25 for males and 21 for females because males take
Okay,
longer
so to be
develop
clear,
their
like,
Okay,
bodies.
no,
it's
so this
like
is
a-
fucking
it's like a
stupid.
meme.
The brain
That's
thing is
fucked
dumb.
No.
Like
I don't
we
know
know
about
that
that.
young people like vote left more, but the idea is that more you want people
That's
to
why
be
you're in support of it.
engaged in. No, it's more that having people engaged in democracy. That's the important part. You want an engaged populace that's like into the voting, and the
Yes,
younger they
people
vote,
who-
the
yes.
more it
Well, then
becomes
we
more
let
of a habit.
6-year no. Then we let 6-year-olds vote, right?
Right,
The
I don't
more,
think
the
that-
more
No,
I
democracy.
agree. There's
What?
probably like more of a line.
Oh,
Wait.
No, hold on. Your
Wait,
logic,
I
right? Wait, hold on, real quick. Your logic right there, like, no, it's different because we just want more people involved in democracy. No, the idea here, the reason why we have voting ages is because we don't trust people like below a certain judgment level to be making decisions for the rest of us, right? And there's this concept of like if you don't have the judgment level to like own property, you don't have the judgment level to make political decisions for me. If you don't have the judgment level to join the military, like then you also don't have the judgment level to have sex. But if you do have the judgment level to do all that other stuff, like why is sex that different? I'm not.
So
understanding
how
that
are we
part.
Just
gonna
hold
figure
on
that-
hold on a
this
second.
is-
But I just
I
let
mean,
me
I've been
finish.
hold
and-
on for
and-
quite a few people.
Okay.
Like, come on, I
You
wait.
good.
So this is very weird. I'm 21. Like, I just turned 21. I want to know why, right? We want to raise the age of voting, of sex, of like everything else. Also, lactoid. Like,
wanna keep you
raising
out
the
of it.
voting
You
age.
kids
Of
are
like,
dumb,
just
yeah.
let.
You guys are all dumb.
Wha-
Your brains aren't finished.
Really?
Just the voting.
Really?
Yeah.
No, not voting.
the
I think
voting
voting
age.
could be. I think voting should stay at 18. I think that the reason why
fuck that.
property is different is because I don't believe that.
Lower
Like
the
it-
drinking age,
the-
raise the
but-
voting age.
Because I'm saying that I think that
Why?
property in
What?
particular.
I want to know an actual
is a-
reason besides memes.
I'm literally trying to tell you. I think that I don't think that an 18-year-old has the credit to get a loan at 18. Typically, like I don't believe that 18-year-old is typically going to be able to like already typically will be able to like own property. They may be able to inherit. That maybe we could write laws around
Yeah.
that. But I think that could be like considered a predatory loan to like someone
is
who's
college
straight out of
predatory
high school.
loan?
Exactly. Yes. College
wait,
is
is college?
100%. Yes.
No, like
Dionysus.
anything else. Me wanting to go trade school, for example, would that be predatory loan?
Wait, how old are you, Dan?
Depends on how much you take it out.
I just turned 21.
Yeah, it'd be unethical for any of us to fuck you for lots of reasons.
Trust
so
me, I
can
don't
we
want to
talk
fuck
about-
about.
But he can fuck us politically.
Let's talk about. Let's talk
True.
about
Lactoid, I
let's talk
vote
about
right wing. I'm
the
not
idea that
fucking
we
you
would create
politically,
these
asshole.
distinctions
You're
between
good.
these
Yeah,
people.
you're good then.
Like, fuck you.
Fanatic, give it a
Yeah, I
try.
said you could. You could.
So let's talk more about like so the idea that there's like all of a sudden because that whole again straw man of nonsense doesn't actually like fix the problem, because even if we're going to consider, say we give you that, like, okay, yes, then adulthood is at 21. So then do you say a person who has been dating someone, there was a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, and they have been dating for literally 6 years. So or for 4 years, and so now the second, like the second the dude turns 21 and the girl is 19, I'm assuming that they're older because that's typically the way the dynamic happens. But if that was to happen, are we going to sit here and just automatically say now that this dude is like breaking the law and should be punished because he's
No,
21, she's 19?
No, I would raise I would keep the Romeo and Juliet laws as is, like the 3-year thing.
Okay, good.
But
So then all that other nonsense we don't even need to talk about.
Well,
We're talking
but
about
the-
Romeo and Juliet. That's
Fanatic.
a conversation.
Well, sure, but
We're past all that.
well,
Good.
I'm dealing with Prime's thing, who wanted to expand the concept of like, because I think that like I think it would be weird for even a 30-year-old to be having sex with an 18-year-old. But I
Okay,
could wrap my head around a 22-year-old having a
Sure, and we can get into that also without ever going down your rabbit hole about all this 21 and 15. I mean, 21 age versus 18-year-old age. So we can just leave it where it was at 18-year-old age. And if you want to have that conversation, we can have that at another date. So let's talk about the Romeo and Juliet laws. So specifically for Romeo and Juliet, like those things, like it does seem like that. Is there anyone here? It would sound like Lactoid might have been the only person that might have said something stupid, but I think he can correct that now. Do you think that it makes sense, Lactoid, for like a person who has been dating, like, because you said anyone under 18, right? So if it's a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old and they've been in a relationship, or maybe a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old, whatever, and they've been in a relationship for 3 years, and now because that dude hits 18 on the 3-year mark, right, like on the birthday, like you're saying now that becomes problematic and those two shouldn't be able to date anymore or have any sexual relationships?
Yeah, I got the ultimate dumb take for you. I don't think children should be having sex, period. I don't think 15-year-olds should be having sex, right? I think if you're under 18, you should not be having sex. That should be illegal in a lot of states. In a lot of states, it is illegal. Underage sex is a separate penalty. It's a separate statutory penalty where 2 15-year-olds, it is illegal for them to have sex. And the reason why it's illegal is because it gives police the ability to ticket them, and it gives police the ability to stop them from actually engaging in that behavior, because they shouldn't be engaging in that behavior because they're kids. What I would do is, I think I even said in my intro, right? Like, obviously we would base like punishment here on age, because like we recognize some level of like judgment and lower culpability when it comes to minors committing any crimes, right? If you have 2 15-year-olds having sex, that should not be legal. Am I going to register them as sex offenders? No, obviously not. In a situation where you have like a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, I think that should be illegal. And I think that like the police should intervene and there should be penalties. Am I going to destroy someone's life for that? Maybe not. However, you start getting into like the darker territories, that's when the penalties start like really hitting heavy. But it should be illegal all the way through. If you are a kid, you should not be having sex.
Okay, but then if that's the case, then one, it seems like that would be incredibly difficult to enforce, and then two,
now.
we don't like not, that's almost never enforced
In my state.
Even in the places where even in the places
Utah?
even in the places where it's illegal, it's almost never enforced. And then so then I think really yes, it is an enforcement.
Yeah, we should enforce it more. The school administrators should.
I don't think there's a solution to that. Don't say school administrators and think that you're actually saying something intelligent. You got to recognize that in most of the cases, these people are having sex at school. So then, like, the idea is, when you recognize that, like, plenty of people are going to do what the frick they want to do, and whenever we see something that like where we can say there's like some like objectionable or objective harm, is where we typically start creating these barriers. But like the idea that we're going to find some way of policing out sex from all kids and like whatever, yes, you can make the claim, and I agree with you.
To this.
You can make the claim. Thank you. I wish you would. You can make the claim, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, that kids shouldn't be having sex. I don't even think 17-year-olds should be having sex. I think we should probably save sex for marriage. That's my own moral prescriptions. But I also recognize that we live in a world where people are going to have freedom, and people like we're starting to give them freedom. And it seems a little insane to me if we just say, well, now that your 18th birthday happened, I know it's arbitrary as hell, but now you're an adult and now everything, like, there's no barriers or anything. That sounds a little stupid to me. Don't you?
Okay, that's right. Freedom is the problem. Let's go to Lactoid or then Ashley.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, just to be fair, right? You said I said something stupid. You said something stupid just now too. You said most of the time they're not even having sex at school. Why should the school administrators even care about it? Yeah, most of the time. Okay, well that's what it's implied. I'll leave it to the good credit of the audience to determine what you actually said.
All right.
Most of the time, sexual assault doesn't happen at school. Most of the time, kids will tell administrators or tell school officials what actually happened to them, right? Or they'll tell their parents. I think there should be more of a role played by parents in their child's life. I think there should be more of a role played by school administrators to look out for these sexual exploitation or underage sex, and there should be efforts put in place to stop that and to disencourage that behavior. Again, like, are we gonna be able to enforce all laws against all sexual impropriety tomorrow? No, that's not an argument for legalizing it. Right? We can still say
but it is, though. But
but it's not. We can give 2 15-year-olds a ticket and say, sorry, don't fuck, right? That's different than saying, oh, fine, we can't do anything to stop you.
No, I would make the point that the difficulty of, I was going to say, the difficulty.
We got Ashley, Dionysus, Paul.
I was just going to ask, if you have a 18-year-old and a 17-year-old fucking, right? I feel like that's a lot more reasonable than an 18-year-old and a 30-year-old. Right? But legally, right, to say that one of these is fine and the other isn't is just really strange.
So that's like the most common thing brought up, like, well, what, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old? I mean, I understand that's a lot more of a, I guess, empathetic position that people take than like, the 30-year-old and like the 10-year-old or whatever. But I don't know. I think there is still a difference when you factor in the account, like when you account in for the factors such as, when you turn 18, you can buy property. When you turn 18, you have access to legal rights that you don't as a 17-year-old, and you can wield those legal rights in order to do things that a 17-year-old can't do, right? I could buy shit and then invite a 17-year-old over, right? A 17-year-old can't buy shit and invite me over. That's like, is that not like an imbalance right there?
But I think that I could understand you saying like, oh, more than 1 year, but I feel like 1 year, it's not really that different, right? Like I understand fundamentally what you're saying, but it's strange to say that an 18-year-old and a 30-year-old are gonna be a lot healthier than a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old.
I get that, and I think that there's the proposal of like, okay, you raise to 21, that's something we can discuss, right? But I think there is like a philosophical concept here of when do you lose your when are you no longer a minor under legal guardianship, and when do you actually become a citizen? When do you actually become an independent adult in which you have full legal rights to make decisions for yourself that you otherwise couldn't before? People were saying before, we have to draw a line somewhere with that. And right now it's 18. You turn 18, you are a citizen. You can vote. You can decide political decisions for me, right? And then, but you can't make decisions regarding sex.
I feel like the vast majority of 18-year-olds are in high school. That's my big thing.
Yeah.
And they can vote and they can buy houses if they have the money.
But they're still in high school, living in their mama's house, eating cereal.
And they're interacting with other people in high school. And I don't know about you, Lactoid, but when I was 17, I was fucking, right? Sure you were. I'm sure about everyone else on this panel was. Probably even the fucking frog, right?
Are you surprised?
Point being, like the idea that we should, right? We should enforce fines for two 17-year-olds senior year fucking on their prom night, right? And then we should throw the book at like an 18-year-old who turned 18 like the day before. It's bullshit, right?
I never said throw the book at them.
You said as age goes, especially at the 18 line, we should rank up the punishment.
Okay, right. So I think that there should be like fines for below 18, right? Because
so beyond fines, what is that?
Yeah, and then you hit 18, like you start ramping up the punishments, maybe like higher fines. Maybe higher fines.
Okay, higher fines? Like what? Like what else? Come on, higher fines.
Sure.
Maybe put them on a list, maybe throw some jail. Like,
well, yeah, once you hit 21 and you're fucking a 17-year-old, yeah, you should go on a list at that point.
Okay, how about then 18 is just higher fines?
Sure, yeah, 18. It's like it goes from like $50 fines when you're under 18, then it goes to like $500 fines. We can think of some kind of like legal scheme in order to enforce this if we really wanted to, right? This is my job. This is like literally what we do. We just like think of like how do we enforce laws and how do we craft laws in a way to efficaciously prevent something that we don't want to happen.
This is absurd.
You said that's your
job. What do you do?
I'm a lawyer.
Can 15-year-olds
what type of lawyer, may I ask?
Like, if 15-year-olds can't work, how would they ever pay a fine?
Yeah.
Like, the average 15-year-old is not working.
We fine under 18-year-olds for also, like, or this is the argument, like, should we not give a 16-year-old a driving ticket? Like, we can fine them, and if they can't pay, we can think of... Yeah, they can work. So they can work and pay off those fines for doing
Ashley just said 15.
A 15. Like, a 15-year-old usually can't drive, but, like, would we be for giving them a ticket for having sex? Like,
we still give 14-year-olds...
How are they going to pay it?
We still give 14-year-olds tickets for vandalism or trespassing, right?
Yeah.
And we can have specific penalties. Like,
are we saying that we're just giving the ticket to their parental guardian?
No. One idea I have is perhaps if they actually don't have the means to work, or let's say they're insolvent, we could think of things like community service, or they have to stay after school and like do shit for the community. I don't know, like punishments that fit the age. Yes, punishments that fit the age.
Fucking their peers. Like, for the most
Kids
part,
should
their
not be
fucking
doing
significant
this.
other.
Yeah,
like,
children should not be having sex with each other.
How
or
old
anybody.
are you, may I ask? When was the last time you were in high school? Like, hey, how old are you?
So first of all, I'm not sure that's relevant at all to the discussion.
Get it? No, I want to know how. Like, when was the last time you've experienced high school? How old are you?
I'm 26, so it's been.
Did you not have a girlfriend in high school or a significant other? I don't know which way you swing.
Okay, I did. How is this relevant to like?
Did you ever engage in sexual activity in high school?
Again, I don't know why it's relevant. I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, Lactoid's penis is pristine. It's unsoiled.
I guess, right?
Woman out
so
they've never touched.
Kids, and by the way, if I had done it, it would.
You'd find yourself.
No, it would have been a bad decision in the same way that drinking underage would have been a bad decision. And we fine people for drinking underage, and we fine people for doing shit they shouldn't be doing underage. That's how we enforce all laws for children doing shit they shouldn't be doing. Why are people okay with children fucking each other? It's not okay.
Okay, because in reality, right? Because in reality, in high school and middle school, we do shit like sex ed, right? We teach people this shit, right?
That's okay.
Fucking safe habits. So you're just gonna teach people this, and there's not gonna be any type of questions at all. You don't think they're gonna engage in it whatsoever?
No.
One time, really quick. Look. Because right now, what you're doing is really painful to me. It's really hurting me. I'm begging you, as a fellow Christian, to stop doing this. Right now, we're talking about a conversation regarding the laws, and we're obviously speaking from a secular perspective. If you had your own Christian commune, you could prescribe whatever the frick you want to. I don't believe in premarital sex. I would advocate for my children not to engage in premarital sex. And we can have that opinion, but we're in a secular panel talking about the legal system. And obviously we shouldn't be putting within the legal system like things based off of your own subjective morality. We typically make laws around like things that are like crazily harmful, like that we can see like, oh, there's something incredibly pernicious about this, that we should probably make some laws against it. Other than that, it's like we allow people to make their own secular decisions. And so while I agree with you, kids shouldn't be having sex. I think once you start getting into like this, like 15, 16, whatever, or probably around 16-ish or whatever, I think where we have this age of consent, it starts making sense to me. Like, while I would advocate for my kids not to engage in that, I recognize that other parents might feel like, this is an age where they're going to start exploring their bodies and stuff. We know it's going to happen regardless. So it's probably better that we have like reasonable and responsible conversation with them about what healthy sex is and things and so on and so forth like that. Do I think it's bad? Absolutely. But please, can you stop just like morally spewing all over this panel and having us go down this rabbit hole around your subjective moral system? I'm a Christian too, but I'm not doing that. Can you be sane too?
Oh, let's go to Paul. Paul.
I don't know. So I think this is just gonna. I think it's everyone versus lactoid essentially, and it's just gonna be us asserting different.
No, it's not, because we restarted the conversation. It's not against him anymore because he's gonna get on board with the rest of us and be sane.
Okay, so everyone agrees then.
I'm not gonna be sane.
I think it's a much more interesting conversation of just like, like we can take it to vote. I'm not really interested in delving into the psyches of why people think kids should be having sex or not. It's like the voting stuff I think is interesting. It's the same kind of idea. To one point, I think the unenforceability of a law is reason to not make it a law. Like prohibition was bad, regardless of whether or not it was morally the right thing to stop people from drinking. It was bad because when you implemented it didn't work. And it's like, you can stop a kid from buying liquor. That's pretty easy. But it's like, okay, if two 15-year-olds are having sex in their, one of their parents' basements, it's like, it's just like, it's just going to be asserted. I am much more interested. Let's fucking raise the age of voting to 21. Let's lower the drinking age to 18. Fuck all these kids voting. They're too simple-minded.
I want an actual reason for this, because like 2 months ago, you would have stripped my rights away. So like, I want to know an actual reason why, besides the meme, like, let's lower one and let's raise the other.
Yeah, because I think
I want an actual valid reason.
First off, stripping your rights away, you're now 21, right?
I'm now. So 2 months ago, you would have stripped my rights away.
Okay, stripping away is a very harsh way. It's like everyone.
I had said right. You then took it away.
Yeah, that's life. It's taxes. You had money.
That's life.
Not yours.
So that's the same as voting rights. Me just taking away your rights. That's just life, right? Me taking away your right to vote is just life.
You get it back when you're 21 and older. My point. Why do we pick? Does anyone know why it's 18 versus 17 or 19 or 20? Does anyone know why specifically it's 18? Because
it's probably some nice median of being like somewhere between having a proper frontal lobe development and having like none. Because it's it's pretty unfair to ask people to wait until 25 for all of this shit, right?
Wait.
I agree. 25 is.
There's no way that it's like based on biology. There's no
way
that
it's not. It's not.
You reckon it's just
like? Can we give it a say?
We really wanted people to go to that military.
I'll answer the question. The reason why we do it at that age is specifically because we kind of centered life around like school and graduation and education. Before, like niggas weren't even having consent laws. There was nothing. It was just whatever. But now it's like we recognize like that is for most people like the most significant thing, like as a society, where you've like finished all of your education to where now you're able to start making the broader decisions that are more important for yourself. Whereas at that point, we legally, I'm explaining because.
You're just telling me that's when education ends. I'm aware. Why not add 2 years of high school? Why
they probably did that because they wanted people to go to the military.
I'm sorry. I know you didn't ask me why are you saying 18 and then say, well, you just told me that it's why that's when you graduate high school. Why not while you're still in high school? I think he was asking why high school.
Anyway, so I still never got an answer.
The answer was that I gave to everyone else, that every other intelligent person could hear, that you just couldn't, Paul, was because typically when you're done with your schooling, once you graduate high school, that's typically around the age where now you're going to start making broader decisions for yourself, because we believe that it's probably more beneficial that you're like a contributing member in society, and so we think an educated populace is probably really important. And we know that if you start getting married and having kids and doing all these things before 18, then it seems like there's like way more negative outcomes. So we've created these age of consent because we know, like, once you're done with high school, now you're going to be, this is where you're able to leave the nest. Like we've given you all of these rights. Like you're finished with your education, which is a mandatory part of this country. And so now at this point, like, it's like, okay, you've done all the things that we require you to do. Now your life is in your hands. You do whatever the frick you want to. And that's why we leave it at 18, because that's when people are done with alcohol.
I think hold on. But I think the reason I think what y'all was saying past each other is I think Paul was asking, like, why didn't we in high school at why didn't high school go to 20? And I think the actual reason is probably closer to people looked at a lot of 18-year-olds and like, these would make good decent soldiers. Like,
Probably.
so we into school so we could get them in the military.
Right,
like, so we'll make you some type of adult.
So would we
just on a
agree
quick
that
note,
that's not a very
we could
good
have
way
14
to
grades.
decide whether or not someone's adult because we needed more soldiers to fight for the military-industrial complex? Don't we needed a more modernized idea? Given what we know about biology and how long it takes for the human brain to develop, what's the harm in pushing back a few years the voting age when people are making very complex decisions, or the ability to take out contracts? You made the point, Dionysus, that like our student loan is predatory. It's like, yes, I filled out student loans. It was like a fucking here's 11% interest. Fill it out. Check here. You're good. $15,000, $20,000 immediately in debt. No credit check. Anything. Which is exactly what the housing crisis was. You can just borrow any money you want because the government says it's okay. It's like, that's fucked up, and there's no shortage of people who are like enslaved in debt because of that shit. So yeah, I would call it predatory loaning, and I think we should push it back because, you know, what's the harm?
So then you're in favor of uprooting. You never gave me an answer for my fucking question. You never did. You never said why we should raise it. Okay.
If we all agree it's better to have more informed people voting, why not raise it a few years?
So what's going to change in 3 years? What's going to change in 3 years?
Hey.
Not everyone's a dumbass libertarian or socialist.
Let's go to Kill.
I'm aware. They're all the 18 to 21.
Wait, can I get an answer for my question? Can I get an answer for my question? Why 21? Why do you choose 21?
Because it's a little bit higher than 18, and it's more close, and it's more closer to when the human brain finishes developing. Prefrontal cortex.
So why don't we wait until the brain finishes development?
Are you talking about voting or sex or
voting?
Voting, contracts, all that shit.
Voting should be fine at 18. Okay.
Let's make it 20. Not
20. I don't know.
Why 20? Why 20? Why'd you lower it now?
Why 18?
Because Fanatic gave you that answer. We centered all of life around. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
High school ends at 18, so therefore.
Yes, because we centered life around. This is the education system. We ended at 18. This is when you. Well, you just said you didn't get an answer, and now you know the answer.
I'm saying we easily could have had 14 grades. That's what Paul's saying.
Point. Why does BAM get it, but no one else does?
So you're in favor of uprooting our entire system?
Adding 2 years?
Restructuring. You know how much restructuring that would take?
How much?
What do you add? What do you add?
I don't know. You stop letting kids take out $15,000 of debt for.
What do you add to the education system for the next 2-3 years?
Okay.
I think high school's
like this is stupid.
We could easily teach people more stuff. But let's.
Yeah, I agree. How about
this is stupid as fuck.
Fill out a tax bracket.
Kyo-san, go ahead.
We do already.
I got 3 things and then I'm going to bail because I have to go pick up my partner.
Yeah.
So I'll just give us a sec. So first thing is, Fennec's right on the point before about like ages and stuff. But what's interesting is I think like age of consent started out way lower. Like it used to be none, and then it was like 10 up until like the 1920s, and then we bumped it up to 16 and then 18. And drinking age was like the opposite. It was like there was none, and then it was like 25, 21, and then they've been slowly squealing that
it used to
down.
Be. Okay, go ahead.
Because I was looking at the history, I was like, oh, that's true. Like, that's a good point. So I thought I'd look it up. Just like I think that's interesting that we like have those two things on the polar opposite stuff. The point about voting really quickly is, and the reason why I'd say 16 is fine, is because it does. It's not about like necessarily decision making. It's about understanding the engagement within the systems, right? Like, if you how many? I don't know if you actually talk to normies. I don't know how many people do. Normies don't care that much about political systems, understand them, or even realistically want to engage with them, right? There are a lot of fucking young people that do, and young people are usually politically passionate as well, and usually understand the systems a lot more than a lot of older people because they've had access to the internet for some time, right? Young people care about politics and should be involved in them and should be involved in them in an earlier age. That's why I'd say lower the age, because it's dependent on the understanding of those systems, and it doesn't necessarily have an immediate repercussion in their own lives. It's more about like the turning tide of like whatever, right? Like young people should just be involved in politics, and it's not as if it's like something that has an immediate super effect on their life. It's not like you've gone out and like bogged yourself down in debt for the rest of your life, right? It's not as if you've gone out and fucking, I don't know, like put yourself into a traumatic situation that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah,
it's
would
not
you
the
be
same as
would you
these
be
other
opposed
things.
to there being like a test I need to pass to get the right to vote or the privilege to vote?
I think that's
Oh,
And
God.
that'd probably
too
exclude
hard.
too many people.
No.
It's too
Wait,
exclusive.
hold on.
That's too hard.
Why?
I just say anyone
No.
who wants to lower the voting age and have more people with less developed brains vote says a lot about the ideology. that
Wait,
they're
but it's
trying to
not
do.
about
No,
developed
I
brains
do
for you
wanna-
because
I
you
wanna-
don't
I
want it
wanna-
at
I
25.
want to talk about sex. That's my topic. So I want to talk about sex. Okay?
Just
Talk
one
about
last thing, and then
sex.
I've got to go because I'm going anyway. So like, it's not about being able to make rational choices or long-term understanding of choices. It's about having an understanding of the systems and how you engage with them, right? Like, it's not the same thing. You're not talking about long-term consequences. You don't, like, people aren't voting thinking like 10, 20 years in the future. That's what that part of your brain is taking care of, which is why we generally don't want people who are underdeveloped in that area to make decisions within their lives that could extend further into the future, which is what we usually do, which is why we talk about age of consent, drinking laws, all these other things, because they have to do with that long-term decision making on effects of their own lives, right? People are usually voting at what's happening there, then, and fucking now.
So what age should people have sex?
Just to kill?
Yep.
No, not to kill. This is just general.
Well,
like,
bail.
Okay.
Thanks for
Okay. Well, Kill, thank you for being
Depends
here.
on the person.
Hold on. Then we're going to Doobie, and then we'll go to Bam. Doobie, are you in favor of having sex with tadpoles?
No, actually. Yeah, I was having a little conversation in chat with somebody who said that puberty is, God's sign that the body is ready for reproduction, so it should just be puberty, right? But I
for
don't.
girls, that could be like 10.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't agree with that, right? And I'm wondering, like I said, is what's more interesting to me, right, as a frog on the internet, is basically like what's the upward limit, right? So like after someone turns 18, we all acknowledge that an 18-year-old is typically dumb as fuck. There's a pretty huge power imbalance just with like the life experience between like an 18-year-old and like a 25-year-old, right? But what, like, do you guys think that we should extend the age of consent further than 18 to say that, hey, within this range, you're not allowed to have sex with an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old? Like, what's the cutoff there?
It's half your age plus 7, isn't that the rule?
Well, that's like the unofficial rule that some people
Right,
go by.
It can only
That's
ever be
not like-
unofficial. I mean, it's going to vary from person to person. This is why it's
But
just going
why?
to be like,
Well, if we can legislate on the other end, why can't we legislate that a 50-year-old man can't have sex with like an 18-year-old girl fresh out of high school?
Yeah, so maybe like have a range.
I'm not-
So like from 18 to 25, if like 25 is like when the brain starts forming, right? Well, then in that there's like a fuzzy zone in which like it's a second level of Romeo and Juliet, in which like you can only have sex with a person 7 or 10 years older than you, maybe. And then after 25, you can have sex with anyone. One elderly person, that's your business. What about that?
25 seems way too high. Yeah, like I said, I think 21 just does it all. Like at that point, if you can get drunk, go home with whoever you want to go home with.
25 is when your brain's so okay. Like this is the thing that kills me about this conversation, right? It kills me. Well, two things kills me about this conversation. One, how the audience reacts, and then two, how people are like assuming there's any sense to these laws as they stand, right? Now, I have many times before in the past checked the VODs, right? Go check it out on YouTube. Check the VODs. I've actively talked about erasing it to 25, right? Just like across the board, 25, right? Like if we actually care about the decision-making process, right? Because that's what people are saying, right? That's what Kyo-san was saying previously, right? Other people have talked about this. Like, we're saying that people below 18 cannot make proper decisions, right? At 18, you don't all of a sudden have those faculties. They don't
I don't
exist,
think.
right?
I disagree.
They literally don't. They literally don't, right? Look,
Disagree.
there are so many love songs, right? There are so many love songs about people saying, I wish I knew now at like 25, 26. I wish I knew then what I knew now, right? Talking about the mistakes they've made at 18, 19, 20. Because then your brain is not done forming. And you are making those same mistakes, right? There is a point where you get past that age, right? Where things come together, when your life starts making more sense. That's because you finally did it. You completed it, right? Achievement unlocked. And if that's the case, biologically, right? then that's where we should draw the line. If that's what we're concerned about. If it's not what we're concerned about, then let's never bring it up, right? And then in terms of like these people, what decision-making abilities they have, right? Because if that's the case, then you're being completely inconsistent.
I disagree. I think that the reason I think the issue with 18 isn't that the human brain, like the part of your brain that develops to decide if you want to have sex with someone is developed. Like, I don't think that decision.
You're absolutely wrong.
I'm saying, but you're saying, but people always say people saying the brain's developing. Just because the brain's developing doesn't mean it's developing the decision to know whether I like cake or not. You can decide whether you like something or not.
Find me a source that says that it's based on biology at all. Find me a source, just anyone.
I'm literally hold on. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying that the issue isn't that like, oh goodness, I have no idea to figure out if I like someone or not at 18. That's not the part of the brain. That's not the brain issue. I think that the issue between 18 and 21 is life experiences. I think that we're trying to get people to have a little life under their belt. Not whether they can decide whether they like someone or not. I think an 18-year-old can decide whether they like someone or not, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily a good decision for their long-term benefit, because they don't have the life experiences to factor in those things.
Right? If people had the proper life experiences, then the military would be vastly smaller, right? If people had the proper life experiences, a lot of people, young men wouldn't be signing. If we put it at 21, then young men wouldn't be signing up as much, right? That's the reason we want soldiers, right? And we know that 18, right? They're still dumb as fuck, and they're like, I want to be a hero, right? We see these advertisements on Twitch. You see these advertisements on Twitch, right? To younger audiences, saying like, here's how to be a hero, how to be a man, right? And they show all these burly guys with guns, right? And then they're dropping bombs, and you're gonna be amazing, right? They do this because they know you don't have life experiences. And at 21, you don't suddenly have that either, right? It's a decision-making process.
You don't get it anywhere though.
Yeah, hold on, I gotta say this. So it's like they're grooming young boys into having a hero complex with Call of Duty for their entire formative life, right? Their entire like 18 years of age. And when they hit 18, like, hey, you want to be a fucking hero? Here's the army. Go shoot some brown people.
Yeah,
this is exactly what it is. Right? This doesn't matter about fucking life. It doesn't matter about fucking like what's developed. Dude, I'm 21. I have a good credit score. I got some savings. I got a fucking job. I'm in school, right? I'm probably more functional.
Are you being Ashley this round?
25 plus. Huh?
Are you being Ashley? Like, you're centering yourself.
Yeah,
just like you.
We are saying that he shouldn't be able to vote. So,
do you think that
you're literally saying there's 2 months ago I wouldn't be able to vote?
We're talking about
right now. I'm concerned about.
So
I'm concerned about you because you've been inconsistent this entire time.
We want to take your rights away. Okay, that's what
I know. That's what it's sounding like, and I want to hear a good answer.
I know a 15-year-old that knows tons about politics, and it would make a better voting decision than like half the population. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that we should move the entire voting range down to appeal to that.
But why do we do it at 18? And Fanatic, answer this. We cater everything around at age 18, you're leaving the nest. Your schooling's done, your next phase of life starts, and that's how we've been doing it. And that's why at 18, you join the military. You can fund for education. You can leave the house. You can engage in sex. You can do all this other stuff. That's why at 18 we choose that.
Sure, but and you're 21.
It's nothing to do about biology, because if we go by biology, Prime's totally right. If you say anything other than 25, you're full of shit. You can't be PF Jung here and say, well, I'm going to choose 21. I'm not going to give you an answer why, but now I'm going to say 20. But then I really care about development, even though my answer's not 25, because you just sound like
I never mentioned development. Again, it's life experience.
No, he did. I'm using him as an example.
Oh, okay, but I'm saying
you haven't given a good example why it should be 21 when you mentioned 21.
Yes, but I feel like about 21 you have enough a random amount of life experiences that we just make that call. But I'm saying that you at 20, but I'm saying that you're still young. But I'm saying you at 21 now. I think you'll look at yourself at 28. You're like, you know what? I was a smart 20-year-old, but I was still stupid.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I'd probably think that and I would think that at 50, looking back at my 25-year-old self.
I don't like you talking shit about libertarians, man.
Listen, the only person dumber than a socialist.
Go ahead, Paul. Answer, then Ashley. You want to say something, and then I'm sure Fanatic is teaming, and I want him to aim at someone, and then
Look, here's the point I'm making, and there's obviously we all disagree, but like 18 is arbitrary in terms of like why 18. It's what we've done. I agree, and K through 12, you graduate, you're 18. Okay, but like it's like saying that's what we've done and that's what it is now. It's like, well, you could draw the line anywhere. My point is, if you're like, if we like, presumably we want just generally people to be smarter on average and capable of making decisions better on average, and that comes with age. So drawing the line arbitrarily at 18 versus
That doesn't
20,
come with age. There's people at
the
25
brain
who got their lives
finishes.
for more
Hold
than
on,
that
do
for.
we all
I
agree?
think the brain is a bad argument.
The brain is a
But you
bad
can
argument
have it.
because your limit's not
That's literally-
25. Shut the fuck up with that.
Okay, 21
Unless your limit
this
is
why you
25,
guys shouldn't
your brain
vote.
development is bullshit.
You're getting too yippy here.
Yippee. Well,
Listen,
dude,
kid.
fuck off
Listen,
because
kid.
you're telling me
Listen,
that
kid.
I shouldn't have the right
Listen,
to vote.
Kid. Listen, kid.
Like
These
this
kids-
is the bullshit that comes here. You boomer fucking ass. Like what the fuck, bro?
Yeah. So we all recognize. You say it has nothing to do with biology. It obviously does. Implicitly, when we say like when you the reason an 18-year-old has more self-determinacy than a 16-year-old is because their brain's a little bit more developed. Now you might say that's not the explicit reason, but that is because that's how we view it. It's like you have more.
No,
life
it's not.
experience. It's all the same thing. Stop interrupting. 25 is when the brain completely finishes developing. But like Bam said, first off, it's not like a linear scale. So at 18, obviously you have the capacity for rationality. At 21, you have more of a capacity, and at 25, it finally peters out and develops. But it's not like a linear relationship. So it's like, hey, if we're gonna draw the line arbitrarily, and we all agree, like, hey, it's probably better if the people who vote in a country are generally more.
We're talking about sex now.
Well, I think we're all over the place. But like if we all agree in general, like it's better that like people who are adults in a country, on average, are have better faculties of reasoning, then why not move it up? That's my point. I'm saying it's arbitrary now. Might as well move it up a little bit, and because it's like, well, you're stripping away my rights.
Where on the brain graph?
You get all your rights back.
We got to move on. We got to get some other
Where
people.
on the brain graph do I hit? This is Prime. You gotta let me fucking staple this guy down. This is bullshit. He doesn't have a reason for this. Tell me where. Prime.
I gotta people. You'll be able. I'm gonna go back to you. I'm gonna put Billy on the list.
Strip away his rights.
I'm gonna go back to you. All right. And Paul, if it makes you feel better, you can wipe your wet dick on a ballot. Okay. All right. So go to Ashley. So be Ashley, Fanatics. I know you want to say something. Lactoid, and then Doobie.
So Paul, are you saying that the age of consent for like sex should be at 21 as well?
No, I mean not really, because I'm drawing a distinction between like voting and higher order functioning, and then Lactoids claim that like.
But I mean, why would sex be different?
Because you can't enforce it, and it's like, should we agree like kids should not be having sex? It's like, it's like, but they do, and it's like so. So
because we can't enforce it, then 18 suddenly makes more sense. Why? What about moving? Now, I don't want to. I'm scared to say this on stream, but what about moving the age of consent down to 16 if we can't enforce it? Like, I would never advocate for that. I'm just saying, like,
sure, it's easier.
No, we can't enforce it. Allows for that, and I'm not sure that we agree with that.
It's all legal.
Sure. No, it's not.
Under your logic.
It's not all legal. Why shouldn't? What's the question? Why shouldn't we lower it?
I'm saying, like, when you're saying that we can't enforce it, right?
Mm-hmm.
An argument against enforcement, I would actually agree with Lactoid here, which I hate because I disagree with this endpoint. But I would agree with Lactoid that we can't enforce it is non-argument against.
The difficulty of enforcing it is something to consider in whether or not it's a reasonable law.
Definitely, it's something to consider, right? But I'm not saying that should be the basis of which we make these laws necessary.
Well, sure, but like again, like when it comes to like alcohol, like the reason we can draw the line at alcohol is like you can just make a law. Liquor stores have to check IDs, and we have all these very obvious measures in place to prevent kids from drinking alcohol. But like if two kids are having sex in their parents' basement, it's like, bro, hopefully it's a different.
So if a 25-year-old's having sex with a 17-year-old, how do we enforce it?
What is it? What are you saying?
If a 25-year-old is having sex with a 17-year-old, how do we enforce it?
Well, presumably if they report it, then it's fucking, it's how sexual assault is treated now.
I think the issue. I think what we're trying to get to is back to the original portion of the equation. Like I think I would be in favor of raising it to 21, but keeping the Romeo and Juliet laws in place. Like because we could understand, even if we don't know they're having sex, we could understand the 20-year-old and like the 15-year-old trying to go to the 20-year-old's house like, or going over to their apartment or whatever. That seems like a really sketch situation that, you know, could take some looking into. But for that same reason, I don't think a 19-year-old should be going to a 45-year-old's house for like all of those same reasons.
Let's just make it a case-by-case basis, which is what
No, we need a
the
rule.
legal system is now. That's literally what our Fanatic keeps saying.
I got all these points for you, Paul, but I'm not up next. So.
I want to hear it. I want to hear
Well,
it.
it's Fanatic, Lactoid, DB,
These were the games,
Dionysus.
I'm sorry, man. This is just brain rot. Like it's really, really crazy. I feel like every time I just have to just wade past everything that they're saying and then just like make my basic general points on the topic because they're not actually engaging with anything. So I'll just say really simply, I think that these laws obviously make all the sense. Just appealing to common sense people. We recognize that there can be like crazy power imbalances and things like that and power dynamics. But obviously there's like different situations where like you can have some really, really incredibly people who are like outliers. We make the laws not considering the outliers. We make the laws like based on general things. And I think as long as things are within the law, I'm fine with it. I like the idea of like creating like provisions for making sure that people are able to engage, like that have already been engaging in sex, because I know that we live in a world where not everybody's going to be subscribing to my conservative Christian values. So then I think if there's some people who have been engaging in sex from like the age of 16 or 15, and then for us to suddenly make that criminal when they hit 18, then yeah, that sounds really, really ridiculous. And we all can see why. Do I think that there are crazy power imbalances between like an 18-year-old and a 30-year-old? Sure. But again, I think that stuff starts becoming really, really, really subjective. And like, I don't like trying to enforce my moral prescriptions on everyone else, because if I started doing that as a freaking biblical literalist, I promise you, y'all niggas wouldn't like any of my takes. But I would also hate if somebody wanted to like well, it's fine. Paul, you're literally not worth engaging with.
Thank you. You're a very good Christian conservative.
If we like we're like living in a world in which maybe like some people from Islam or some other like crazy conservative place was like trying to, like Mormons or something, were like or the cult I was raised in, if they were like trying to like really enforce their values on the rest of the world, I would be really unhappy with that, especially once you now like have like I value freedom, as we all do. So I think it's crazy to me that these people who like a lot of times will call themselves liberals or whatever the freak, like have no problem like subscribing like their own the things that they recognize are crazily subjective, and say the rest of society should follow things in this way. I'm not that person. I think I would advise things personally against whatever, but I would never legislate against like 16-year-olds being able to consent to have sex. I think it's something I wouldn't advise, crazy power dynamics and age dynamics, but as long as it's within the law, I think that's where I'm just going to stay.
Real quick. As a conservative Christian, why are you the one being the most aggressive and insulting people the most on this panel?
I feel like I've been
maybe because maybe because you're literally just intentionally changing everything I'm saying, and you interrupted me enough earlier in the conversation that I'm just put out with you at this point.
Maybe.
But
I'm also very
sorry,
Christian.
but if you're saying
maybe you should embody Christ.
if you're saying that by me raising my voice in this panel that I'm somehow not being Christian, I can't care less about. I cannot care less about your opinion.
Yes.
Sure, and I guess, and if you want to say that makes me not a Christian, and I'm
it's the reason why people don't like Christianity.
Sure, I guess so. If you can try to label that as Christianity, I'm pretty sure you got some pats on the back from other idiots, from other like-minded, brain-dead people.
We are
brain dead. Yes,
probably
I'm also Christian.
Just so y'all know. Christ himself.
We're all heathens and heretics today. All right, let's move on to Lactoid. Please.
Okay, I got 3 people I got to respond to. Okay, Paul.
Bring it to me.
I hate your arguments here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can't enforce it. The vast majority of sexual assault isn't enforced. It's a difficult crime to enforce generally. The argument that we can't, because we have difficulty enforcing a crime, that we shouldn't even have a law against it when we know that it's like bad for people to be engaging that behavior, is not a reason. We know it's bad. We should have a law against it, prescribing that behavior, and then we should try to enforce it to the best we can. Obviously, we're not going to be able to do that because we don't live in a police state where we can maximally enforce every single law. That's not an argument about, yeah, we just shouldn't have the law because we can't enforce it. Alcohol, you brought up alcohol as an example. Yeah, I agree. You can't buy alcohol. However, children drink alcohol all the time and get away with it. There's plenty of under 18-year-olds who buy alcohol and drink it
we still ticket them if we catch them. Just because they get away with it isn't a reason that we shouldn't ticket them, because we know the behavior they're engaging in is not a good behavior that should be engaged in by children. Okay, now Prime, you said, why are we going to 25?
I'm advocating for 25.
Okay, you're advocating for 25. Sure. That's we can have that argument. Like, there's an argument about where the age of majority should be. 25 isn't unreasonable, but you don't actually have to stick to 25 in order to be reasonable, because the question is not whether or not you are maximally judgment capable. The question is whether or not you are sufficiently judgment capable to be an independent citizen. And the research on that 25 age is actually questionable. There's some news sources that indicate the brain doesn't stop pruning until your 30s, and there's some recent that says maybe until your 40s, right? So if we really want to go like super hyper on it,
let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
like
do it.
potentially,
like
you
psychedelics,
could only
you get
have
another
sex
5
when you're
years.
40, right?
Great.
So like if we really want to go down that road, I don't think you have to be maximally judgment capable. I think you have to be sufficiently judgment capable. Is that going to be an arbitrary line? Of course, to some extent, like it's going to differ based on all of our individual values of capability compared to what kind of liberty we want a society to have for individuals. And the last point, this is to Fanatic, of course, we're going to make arguments from our own moral perspective, right? We're going to make arguments saying, I believe having sex with a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old is immoral. In the same way, you're going to argue that, and agree with me, that having sex with an 8-year-old is immoral. For, again, is it all just like our own moral, subjective opinions at the end of the day? I suppose, but obviously, the goal here is to make moral arguments, try to make them convincing, and to persuade people to our set of values. Okay, thank you.
Are you Christian? Lactoid, are you Christian?
Yes, he is. He already said that.
I was being rhetorical. I'm a hardcore atheist.
Oh, that's
wow.
stupid. Okay. So wait, Lactoid. Wait,
Wow.
Are you literally comparing the subjective nature of whether or not it's okay to have sex with an 8-year-old to the subjective nature of whether or not 17-year-olds could engage in sex? Do you think those things are equivalent?
I believe ultimately
about to get
everybody's
weird.
moral system is subjective, sure, and I think that it's wrong to do both.
Wait, no, that's not the question.
More
I'm
wrong
asking.
for one.
I didn't know. That's not the question I asked. I didn't ask.
I'm just making sure it's clear.
Okay, good. Well, I'm
Yeah,
asking
really.
the question. Answer my question. The question that I asked: do you think that these two specific things? Do you think that the ability, that the person making the statement? I'm sorry. Do you think the statement that it's wrong to have sex with an 8-year-old is equally as subjective as it's wrong for two 17-year-olds to have sex?
Yes, and there are plenty of examples of societies in which they have an age of consent, like was pointed out in the United States before a certain year, in which there was no age of consent, in which that's how society ran. I disagree with this moral system. I disagree with this moral system. I've been the only one on this panel advocating for a hard age of consent at 18, and that's genuinely what I believe, right? I disagree with any moral system. Now, people who I disagree with can have moral systems. You could have a morally subjective system in which you thought it was okay to sacrifice children and throw them into a volcano like the Aztecs did or whatever. I would disagree with them too.
Okay, let's.
I don't believe in a biblical literalist.
Let's go
you
to
are.
You are a better Christian than
So,
Fanatic is,
sorry.
so
The
you're
next
not even a
person
Christian.
was Doobie the Dionysus.
Can Dionysus go before me? So,
Okay, something terrible is happening to Doobie right now, I'm sure. Let's go to Dionysus.
Awesome. So we talked about the graph of brain function's not linear. It's it's a little slope, right? So where on the slope at 21 do I get my rights? Where on the slope
Oh
in
my
general do I
God,
get my
you were
rights?
sitting there
At what
as well.
percentage, right? At what percentage of
Child.
brain
Young
functionality
man,
do I get my
boy.
fucking votes,
Young boy.
right? No, it's
Listen-
really because you only
like,
care about
listen
brain
to your
functioning and
elders,
development,
listen to
dude.
your
No, I waited. I'm gonna fucking finish, okay?
I'm finished, please.
Because you've already
These kids-
gone 21 down the 20. You're fucking all over the place. You
These
have
young
no
bloods.
bar. When I was 20, I had a better credit score, more stable job, and better social relationships than people 25 plus. Your bar is bullshit. And you said you don't want them to vote. And the only fucking reason you've given is the fact that 18-year-olds are socialists and libertarians. That's not a good reason.
Your
Right?
child,
One, that's a straw man.
Yeah.
Two, not vast majority of people who are 18 don't give a fuck about politics and are
Yeah.
either center right or center left. So you have the straw man, and it's really just coming out the reason that you just don't want people who disagree with you to vote. That's what I
Right,
think
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
And it's really bullshit because you've been all over
okay.
the place, man. Touch some fucking grass.
Thank
You're
you.
delusional.
Your childlike brain can't handle sarcasm. First off, I'm 17, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
First off, let me just say I have thoroughly enjoyed being on a panel with Lactoid. Lactoid has, I think, honed in on the conversation, and he's conducted himself very well. Lactoid made a great point about it's not at maximal rational capability; it's at sufficient rational capability. Now, you're asking me reasonably. Well, Paul, why would you arbitrarily draw the line at 21 and not 25? Like, how do you define when it's sufficient? And as Lactoid pointed out, well, there is some level of arbitrary subjectivity, moral system. You know, maybe a 25-year-old is more sufficient for voting. Maybe a 16-year-old. We all have different disagreements. My point is that if you accept that 18 is arbitrary as it relates to your ability to be sufficiently reasonable, because certainly if 21 is arbitrary as you accuse me it is, 18 is equally as arbitrary. 21 is closer to something that we all agree I think is reasonable, which is, hey, like generally speaking, it's better to be more, to have the capacities of rationality develop more so than less. So if you're gonna draw an arbitrary line, you might as well lean closer towards that, period of your life where your brain is more fully developed rather than less.
Okay, going by your
quite
logic,
simple.
why don't we just wait till 25?
When I was your age, I thought the same thing, man.
Why don't we just wait till 25 according to your logic?
I was a Ron Paul fan. Everything was just gonna go
I'm not a Ron Paul fan.
Calm down with libertarian shit, man.
I'm like, not all 18-year-olds are fucking libertarians or socialists, dude.
I know.
Like, according to your logic, why not just 25? Full stop. Why draw an arbitrary line anyway? No, you said because we want them more. Well, then why don't we just want them fully developed, according to your logic?
Look, Dionysus, it's a balance, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
No, I wouldn't agree.
Dionysus, the question you're asking me, you're posed with the same problem. Like, why do you accept 18?
And I'm giving you that. Because it's the way it's been. It's the way we developed our system. It's the way we developed our system.
It's the way it's
Education stops at 18. You leave the nest at 18. You put all these other responsibilities on the person at 18.
Leave the nest. It's like a lot of people live with their parents till they're
Do people not go to college? I went to college when I was 18.
Not
I went
everyone
off.
does. I know.
A lot of people do. A lot of people go to the military. A lot of people go to college. A lot of people move out.
When you get to be older, you realize that not everyone has the same life experience.
This is fucking stupid.
Don't worry.
You have no actual point. You have no actual point.
I'm sorry.
Can I
have
point
no actual point.
Real quick, Dionysus.
Oh,
my bad.
So this has been thrown around a lot. This is how we set up our system. People get out of high school at 18, but actually, the voting age of being at 18 years old has only been a thing for like 40 some years. Right? This happened as a result of the Vietnam War with the 26th Amendment when they started drafting 18-year-olds into the military. And as a result, people started saying, hey, if they're old enough to go fight in the war, they're old enough to vote. So they they lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. Right? So now it seems like, hey, we tried that out. Bad fucking idea. Now I think.
Wait, how is it a bad idea?
Now you have the ability to vote.
What net negative?
People voted
what
for
net
AOC.
negative?
I think
some people
people
decide
my
to be
age
Republicans at 18.
vote.
Obviously, bad idea. Let's
People my age
continue on.
won't fucking
No,
vote
no, no,
anyway. On
I don't want. Look, I think you just look at the average 18-year-old in the U.S. today and understand, hey, these fuckheads have had the ability to vote for the last 40 years. It's just pretty weird right now. Now we have CRT and trans ideology, trans indoctrination being pushed onto 3-year-olds now in schools. So hey, maybe this is a failed experiment. We gotta go back. Gone too far. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think it's totally reasonable.
This is
like a smidge, but I think it's totally reasonable to say, hey, this is something that it hasn't been what we formed our society around. It's something that we tried for 40 some years, and now we're reverting back to what we were doing before because it seemed to be working a lot better.
Did it work a lot? Wait, it worked a lot better back 50 years ago.
Complex. 18 years of age was a move by the military-industrial complex to go in Vietnam, and you are supporting that. You are a shill.
But would you be for a max?
You're a shill for sending children to war to get murdered.
I want my check then. I want my fucking check.
And beyond that, right? On the sex topics, I know Prime wants to talk about sex. I think I don't understand like what the maybe I just haven't heard it yet, right? But what's wrong with saying that children who engage in sexual activity, right, under the age of 18 should receive some kind of fine, some kind of thing that says, hey, this is a bad thing to do. We're going to incentivize you not doing this thing. And if you do this thing, you're going to get in trouble. It's just the way they'd get in trouble for drinking alcohol,
I agree.
right? Or driving a car under the age of 16. Right? I really don't see why that's an issue.
I agree. I have changed my mind. I am on Lactoid's side on that. I'm okay with giving fines out. The Romeo and Juliet law should remain. Like the day you turn 18, if you were, 17, 16, that's kind of fucked up. But fair enough. To that point, we should still make it illegal, even though it's not necessarily that easy to enforce.
Also, Lactoid, if you
So can we allow them to have birthday sex and then after that you start finding them? All right.
Oh my God.
Let's
no,
go.
I'm curious, Lactoid, like in your system, like, is it just sex, or would you allow them to be in like a romantic relationship? If they're like, oh, we're not doing anything, or is that because that would be something I don't think I would allow a grown man to be in a romantic relationship with someone I consider a child just because they say they're not having sex.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, right? I think that my general idea is the reason why we prescribe certain behavior to minors is because they don't have the judgment. We've determined, and I agree, that they don't have the judgment necessary to engage in certain activities that are risky and like can lead to like bad outcomes. So we don't let them drink, right? Because we don't let them drink, we don't let them like smoke cigarettes, because for two reasons. Not only is it like extra bad for them because of their age, but also because they can't appreciate the danger and the risk and the ramifications that come with those decisions. Same thing with sex. And arguably, I mean, I think that like super hardcore, like romantic decisions, like, yeah, we're going to move in together, like that stuff should probably be discouraged. I think among minors, I think that like maybe like a healthy kind of relationship monitored by chaperones, like, hey, this is like how you interact with people, like that can be like there's a healthy way to do it. But generally speaking, like it's okay to be paternalistic to literal children, right? Like it's not.
It's the same reason we don't allow them to share around nudes, right? We don't allow them to take nude pictures of themselves. Why would we allow them to have sex if they're not allowed to see each other naked on the phone? Like it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Thank you. And the law on this is actually ridiculous because a minor who takes a picture of themselves naked, like in some jurisdictions, can be charged with possession of child pornography.
Yeah, and here's something even more ridiculous than that. I think there's laws right now in certain jurisdictions where it's like if you're allowed, like since the age of consent in some places is 16 years old, a person that's over whatever of any age can have sex with that person, and it's perfectly fine. But if that person was to like send that person a nude picture or a pornographic picture, then that would be illegal.
It actually gets weirder than that real quick. So if you're within the same state, like there's some like quirks in the law where if you're within the same state, you could like have sex, right? But if you message them on a internet service that goes across state lines, it's technically federal at that point, and then you could be breaking federal laws against sex trafficking. So yeah, it gets ridiculous. It does, and I do think that laws need to be more realistic and need to be more understanding and more consistent.
Would be more realistic.
We do a decent job, but just not enforcing.
21-year-olds.
Sorry, what did you say?
But kids should not be fucking.
I said, what would be more realistic than restricting sex to 21-year-olds? We already recognize like underage sex is happening all the time. Like when like
not restricting sex
now, right? Like
so is underage drinking.
Great. So yeah, exactly. My point being that there's one of these things that we can see is like has obviously like physical direct harm right to the developing brain. Again, there's a reason why we do those things. And on top of that, when you take a person who already has like an underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, and then you introduce something into them that like literally lowers their inhibitions, you can get some really, really drastic outcomes. So like as a society, we're like protecting children. Whereas when it comes to like sex and things like that, well, I do believe, especially because of my Christian faith, that things are going to be a lot more like that sex will be harmful for young children. I think that you start getting into some much more subjective ground again. But I can't have this conversation with you because you think it's the same to say like having sex with an 8-year-old is the same as having sex between two.
Bro, that's really a shitty.
No.
He didn't say that at all, and you're on a stream telling him he said that. That's kind of weird. That's kind of weird.
Thank you, Paul.
He literally said that. I asked him directly. I asked him directly.
Fanatic, you are what, a 38-year-old man coming out here saying this shit.
I asked him directly, is these two the same thing, are these two the exact same? And he said yes.
I want to have a
Are
war.
you denying that or not, Paul?
I am
Are you denying that or
absolutely.
not, Paul?
So okay, if you can just stop yelling at me for a second, I'm
I'm not
absolutely.
yelling at you. I'm yelling at the idiot Paul who decided to
thank you.
interject.
No.
reason.
No.
Paul.
He's right. He's right.
Let the
because-
man speak for himself.
No. He's right because right now you're slandering me. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not say that.
Slander.
No.
Slander.
I am. We're literally okay. We are having a delicate conversation about
Did you
like
say that yes or no?
kids and sex, and you misphrasing me like can have bad ramifications here.
Exactly.
If you could just shut up for 1 second, I'll explain what I said. Okay. You asked me, are they both subjective? Right? Are they both so like some kind of subjective moral opinion? I agreed to that.
Fully subjective, and you said yes.
Yeah, subjective.
That's
I'm not
what
saying they're the same thing.
That's what I just said right now. Is that you said that they were equally subjective when we can obviously see objective.
No, you phrased it like an insult. You added it like a snide remark at the end.
Yeah.
You're
You
the
said
guy
they
that
were.
says
You said I
it.
said they were the same thing.
Yeah. You left it as a remark.
Okay.
No, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
We can obviously see.
Fuck enough with him.
We can obviously see that someone grown person having sex with an 8-year-old. I think there's almost nobody in society.
The range.
There's almost nobody in society,
Is he muted?
especially nowadays. But these idiots were talking about two 17-year-olds.
Okay.
And
All
this-
right.
I just got upset when he was like, Lactoid said this thing, which he didn't.
I don't care about your feelings.
Okay.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't.
Okay. We gotta go. Ashley. Ashley is like the most wonderful person here, right? And I haven't heard enough of her. Please, Ashley.
Fanatic
resent that.
you said that. Victorian, I just have a question for you. I saw this in the chat earlier, and it's something I think you should probably. Do you worry about if you were to like enforce a fine on having sex before 18, right? If you were to enforce a fine, or we earlier hashed out that like maybe community service, right? And I would be more for that than a fine, but I wouldn't be for either. Would you worry that teen pregnancy would go up because people might try and hide the fact that they're having sex more and might not be able or feel able to ask questions that they need to have?
No, so I understand the concern there. I think you have to do it in a way that would try to mitigate that consequence, right? So you would still have sex ed, and you could still have, condoms be available. Like there's things you could do, but you could say like, look, the reason why we're doing this is because here are all the terrible things that can happen when you do something that you shouldn't do. I see it almost similar to like providing Narcan to like opiate addicts. Like it's not exactly the same, but the idea is like we want to mitigate like the worst case scenario, but it's still not okay for you to do this. So like we have to be careful how we educate people.
Let's think about this, right? Let's say you go to the store, right? And let's say Lactoid is 17 and wants to have sex with his 17-year-old girlfriend, right? And he goes to the store, right? He might buy condoms, but what if somebody sees that he's buying condoms and he's underage, right? Are they gonna let him buy condoms when he's underage? Wouldn't that technically be implying that he's about to break the law?
Not necessarily, right? So there are states
So
that
would a store let you buy condoms?
Yeah, like currently there are states that do this. My state allows you to buy condoms even though it is illegal for two people under 18 to be having sex with each other, right? We can obviously, because I agree with you, like the part of the reason why I don't want kids having sex is because of these horrible outcomes that can happen. Pregnancy, STDs, physical harm, deep emotional harm. These are things that I want to avoid. And so if we have any policy we have on this should be specially crafted to have exceptions for mitigating tools we have to prevent that bad stuff from happening. I still think that we could have fine. We do it now. We don't have this problem.
Yeah, no, but if it's illegal, right, wouldn't it be very possible that someone would be scared to buy condoms? Because they're going, if I buy a condom, that is saying that I'm about to break the law. It's like, it's not the same, but it would be like buying a gun.
Right. Well, so what we can do then is, sort of, but what we can do is,
maybe
yeah. So in health class, what you would do in health class, you would like emphasize like, yeah, like it's not illegal to buy condoms. Like if you, and maybe we could even be at like, if you have condom sex, like that has like a lower fine or something. Like we could figure out a way to like specifically try to aim this at preventing behavior that you don't want to have. Well, obviously we can't. Okay, obviously, like that would rely almost entirely on like
Show us the
self-reporting.
crescent condom.
Yeah, and wait, hear me out though, right? If you're buying condoms, you're showing off that it's a possibility that you're having sex.
Okay.
So why take that risk when you could just have sex?
I think I just found
in my state. In my state, this is not a problem. In the states that have these laws, it doesn't seem to be a problem. If it becomes a problem, I agree that we should take proactive measures in our education to try to fix it. I don't think the solution is to just say no, it's okay, you can go ahead and do this for children. For children,
I got you. Hold on. I think I hit like 3 point. So you're asking. I think you're asking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, a mostly unenforceable law just because you don't want society to incentivize something that we consider to be a bad behavior.
Wait, how's it mostly unenforceable?
Well,
I would be looking very
and here's that's a good one. But when it like rang up to me was like, I'm not for people going to jail for doing hard drugs. I don't think that like criminalizing hard drug users like does any good. But I would never be in favor of like legalizing crack or heroin or meth. Like I think that would be really, really bad for society. But I don't necessarily want it to be enforced. I want it to be like society to sort of socially disincentivize it, keep the bad law in the book, and not really send people to jail for it. Now, if that's what you're saying regarding sex, like we shouldn't say that like, oh yeah, this is something children should be doing. It should be seen as a bad thing, seen as illegal, even if we don't necessarily hardcore enforce it. I can wrap my head around what you're saying. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but I'm there. I'm depressing.
Well, if that's enough to get you to agree with me, then I guess that's better than the alternative. But I very much think that there would be some enforcement here, in the same way there is some enforcement when it comes to busting kids drinking alcohol, busting kids doing drugs. I agree with you. I think that like drugs and alcohol should be illegal for adults. I don't believe in like paternalizing adults. I do believe in paternalizing children, right? Because they don't have the judgment necessary to be making these decisions for themselves. And that includes sexual activity because of all the risks that we talked about earlier, that should be mitigated to the best we can with sex education and other tools that we have at our disposal.
Yeah, I don't know where we get the idea that this is like mostly unenforceable. Like, I think it seems pretty straightforward. Hey, if there's an indication that two kids are having sex, you can question them. If one of them gets pregnant, hey, that's a pretty good indication that they've been having sex. They can ask them who their sexual partner is. Right? Like, it seems pretty straightforward. I mean, I'm sure you guys would say that it should be illegal for 2 9-year-olds to have sex, right? And if a 9-year-old keeps trying to fuck with other 9-year-olds, at some point there's some kind of an enforcement action that's going to happen.
Yeah, but the enforcement the situation wouldn't happen against the 9-year-old in that situation. The enforcement would happen against the parent. Because there's clearly like no way that
hold on. I think it should be both, right? So in the case of like
no way.
In the case of like 2 15-year-olds messing around, I wouldn't have an issue
with shifting. I thought you were talking about the 9-year-olds first.
Wait, hold on. Wait, yeah, but I'm expanding it a little bit. So in the case of like 2 15-year-olds messing around, I wouldn't have an issue, right, if this was like a continuous problem with these 15-year-olds, with the parents having some kind of penalty because they're not watching their kids well enough. Right, the kids out there getting into like dumb shit, and they're legally responsible for their kid. Right, so I think it's fine.
I don't know. I think they would end up taking their kids.
We can sit here as a society and say, guys, sex should probably be for 18 because of the possibility of ramifications, STDs, pregnancy, etc., while also educating them. But let's be real, descriptively, like it happens. Kids have sex in high school. Now, we should probably do the first one instead of like, oh yeah, let's just fine 17-year-olds. Let's have the sex police knock down doors to stop couples at 17 for fucking on their prom night. Like this is absurd.
The thing is,
right?
it wouldn't be anything
give
new.
education. We should give education, and then if you subscribe to the philosophy and the moral framework Lactoid does, like, hey guys, save it till you're 18, save it till whenever the marriage or whatever the fuck else. The education has to be there, but the idea we're gonna find people is absurd.
Because it feels like it's one of the few things we can't do.
I think
like
it's
we've
absurd.
already tried telling kids to not have sex for the largest part of history, and we've learned that's the one thing that doesn't work.
Look, as long
and also
as...
like. What are we gonna find them? Because earlier,
I wouldn't legalize
it. Earlier, Lactaid said, "Oh, it's gonna be a small fine, right?" Lactaid, Lactoid, whatever the fuck your name is, I don't care, right?
Right there.
But that actually was a mistake. Okay, right. So you said it's gonna be a small fine. Earlier, you said this. We'd start out with small fines for people under 18. Like, how small of a fine? Like, how are they gonna weigh that? Like, one, I'm gonna try not to get caught, and if 17 or 17, fucking worst case scenario, I pay a $50 fine. I'd pay $50 for a nut. Like,
Okay,
come on.
This is
I'm just so stupid.
I'm just so like I'm so flabbergasted at the idea that we have these systems in place for all sorts of shit that we don't want kids doing. We have the system in place to protect kids from people who are older, right? Now, I worked at the public defender for a short period of time, and I can tell you, at least from anecdotal experience, right, that oftentimes, maybe not 100% of the time, maybe not even most times, but oftentimes what I would see is that these cases get busted because somebody fucking talks. The vast majority of sexual assault gets busted because somebody talks, right? And it's we try to encourage people to come forward and say, hey, like, you shouldn't do this, right? Now, for underage sex, people are going to fucking talk. People can find out, and then you could say, hey, dude, you probably shouldn't do that. Like, and then if you're under a certain age, like, yeah, you either get a ticket, or maybe you have to like go and do detention, or maybe you have to like shovel the school grounds or something. You make it age appropriate. You make the punishment age appropriate, just like you do any other.
Getting involved in this.
Just like you do any other punishment for children.
But I think with underage drinking, the reason underage drinking doesn't work, because like, maybe 20-year-olds, there's like levels of punishment. But if like they catch a 16-year-old drinking, more than likely they're taking them home to their parents and saying like, you handle this. Like 16-year-olds really don't get in like criminal
they get tickets.
trouble. I don't think that's a norm.
For the most part, when I was on campus and underage drinking with a bunch of other friends, it's if campus police or state police find you, they take away your alcohol and tell you to fuck off somewhere. Like that's what happens.
I've seen public intoxication.
Up for a fine.
I've seen people get fined and arrested.
Sometimes when cops pull you over, they don't. Yeah, sometimes when cops pull you over, they just take your drugs and let you go. There is discretion among the enforcers. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a law saying like, yeah, like we are giving authority to certain authorities to not let children engage in this behavior. Here are the enforcement mechanisms. I'm curious in your underlying motive, like why you really think it's impossible to like give fines to kids for fucking? Like, can't we say as a society, like, kids, like, this is against the law, you can't do this?
I think you have to catch them I think you have to catch them with penetration. Like, if you find like making out naked in the back of a car, like,
okay, this is kind of weird.
You could assume it happened, but like, what do you do? Like,
the important conversation we should be having is how do we prevent infants like Dionysus from voting? I say raise it to 25, and then it's over, and we're good.
I can imagine the police taking pictures of 15-year-olds, right? Like their junk, like mid thrust. No, that's a good idea, right? Like, Your Honor, I have the evidence right here. I took it home with me for reasons just to study it. But Your Honor, I have the evidence right here.
Where does sex begin?
Oh my God.
Yeah, okay. This is weird, right? There's no reason to do this. There's no
kids shouldn't be making out.
This.
Kids shouldn't make out.
A 17-year-old shouldn't be making out with. What age am I allowed to make out with my partner?
I don't know.
What age am I allowed to hold hands? What age am I allowed to hold hands?
I'd probably allow hand holding. That doesn't seem too hard.
Why hand holding?
I haven't seen any evidence.
Get in line, kid. You better keep those hands out there.
I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that hand holding leads to like demonstrably bad effects like psychological stunting, pregnancies.
And you should also, making out you should also do like the bro hugs when your genitals are far apart, right? Yeah, you're reaching the bro hug. Okay. Thank you all so much for this. This was weird. But we are going to move on to our open walk-on panel right after this, where honest members like you, yes, you sitting at home, may participate. Yeah. If you found any of this interesting, if you found any of this infuriating, you should come on and tell the world how wrong all these individual people are, right?
Prime, when do I get my 1v1 on Fanatic on morality? Challenge me, Fanatic. Explain to me why I'm wrong, because I'm the brain dead rotten one.
Bro, I don't. Are you better to interact with, like, in a 1v1 conversation than you were here?
I'd say so.
Probably not.
Are you?
No.
Only one of us was.
Can I say one thing more? Can I say one more thing on the topic?
Wait, I just want to see if it's.
I'll DM you, bro. I'll DM you. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, let's make that happen. And let me host it. I want to host it. All right. Let's go. Lactoid, fine. Go ahead. You have one last thing.
One more thing. I just want to compare. So condoms are to underage sex as needle exchange programs are to heroin addicts. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
And we should have needle exchange programs. Okay. So thank you. We're making progress here. All right. Moving on. Hey everyone. Yeah. If you've been enjoying this content, hit that follow button right now. In case you just stumble on to this, right? And seeing all this crazy stuff that we do it all the time, 7 nights a week. We got content for you. All right. Well, you can sub to the channel, but we'll get to that later. But hit that follow button if you haven't done so yet. Exclamation social chat for my social media. I got a lot of social media, right? We got Twitter. I'll let you know when things are happening on Twitter, right? So check out our Twitter. We have Discord, heart and soul of the community. Everything that happens on Discord, including the open walk-on panel, which will happen in just a few minutes, right? So stick around for that. You can jump on in there, be part of the conversation. YouTube is where you will find the VODs. If you missed anything, you've missed a lot. You missed a lot. You missed the crusty condoms. Like, you've missed everything. Then hit up YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, and consider becoming a YouTube member. Hit that join button, supporting us that with giving that content 7 nights a week. Okay, I'm going to give an outro to all these amazing individuals, right? Oh, maybe amazing is too strong of a word. But I'll give an outro to them. I'll start with Bam. Bam, thank you as always for coming through, man. I hit this guy up with a lot of invites because I just really appreciate talking to him. So thank you so much, buddy, for stopping by.
Oh, super appreciate it every time. If I can make it, I'm gonna be here. Which I guess seems obvious. But yeah, no, another great conversation. We love trans people. We don't want adults effing kids. What more could you ask for?
Amen.
Hey, could you give me your your full Twitter username? I've been trying to find you, like the full URL.
It's like the biggest Twitter on Twitter. It's the Twitter.
Oh, okay. All right. Ignoring him. Lactoid, right? Stardust came in here earlier, right? Stardust came into my chat, and she was like, Lactoid, he's so great. I'm the biggest Lactoid fan, right? I'm like, I get that, right? Lactoid's such a nice individual, right? And how can such a nice, polite young man have the most dog shit of dog shit takes? I don't get it, right? The dichotomy is beautiful here. But Lactoid, thank you for coming back and joining us once again.
Yeah, no, I want to huge shout out to Stardust. Believe it or not, Stardust actually helped me make my Discord PFP, so profile picture. So thank you for that. My name is Lactoid. I am the bane of leftists, sort of. I am an enlightened libertarian. You can find me on Anti-Communism United on Twitch and Discord. Huge thanks to everybody in the panel who talked to me. Just thank you for talking to me, everybody. And then huge thanks to Prime for letting me come here and talk. Big shout outs to you. As to the topics, I thought it was a good discussion. I'm surprised the first one went so well. I think it is a very complicated issue. I think everybody raised a lot of good points. And I ultimately do think I still am against it, just based on the arguments that were made. And then as to the second topic, well, I was the only one with that position, so I stand by it. Once again, thank all of you.
Okay. All right, I need to just interview you and get all of your worst takes, and to just set up panels around that.
I have a pamphlet.
All right,
I can send it to you if you want.
Thank you so much. Right, brochure for that. All right, let's go to.
I actually like that. Send it to me, please.
That's actually not a bad idea. Dionysus, thanks, buddy. Great mod, and just all around nice guy. Assuming he's not yelling at me with his wrong takes. Dionysus, thanks for being here. Tell a little about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Prime. It was a pleasure for the most part. Yeah, I'm Dionysus. You see me around Discord here. I'll be on the after panel if you want a bit. Follow me on Twitter, Dionysus_YT. A bunch of banter, some video gaming shit, audio, video, all that fun stuff will be on there. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Ashley. Ashley, you are too good for this world. So, I thank you for lowering yourself to our standards and interacting with us. Seriously, it's really helpful that you were part of this. So, Ashley,
thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell a little about yourself.
Fun fact: me and Lactoid played Stellaris 3 years ago together, so it's nice reuniting with them. But yeah,
good times.
I stream Black Desert and I play at a higher level, and then I also do talks on stuff during it, and it just kind of worked I have some cool emotes too that I've been getting made, so I'll post those in the chat. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Prime.
Absolutely, friend. And she's under Lux of Legends, so fight her there. All right. Next we have Paul P.F. Young. I am very glad that we could connect once again. All right. This was spirited. This was fun. I hope you had a good time too.
Oh, I had a great time. I really did. And I think me and Ashley are gonna try and talk at some point. And hey, are you free this Thursday evening, Fanatic? That's what your calendar says. Let's set it up.
Hold on. I had to. Sorry. Hold on. Fanatic, I had to mute you because you were. I could hear you typing, but that was. Go ahead.
Yeah. I do Bible study on from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Or no, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and yeah. Aside from that, I'm pretty good. Oh, and then I have the All Black Everything panel from 5 to 7. I'm pretty sure.
We can
PrimeCayes panel.
Prime, you'd be cool to host a conversation.
Yeah.
Morality, maybe.
Absolutely.
Something interesting like
yeah.
that. Sure.
Let's get a group DM for
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get it working.
That works. Yes, it's been fun. Yeah, it's always fun coming on here. Thank you, Prime. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, PF Young. It's a lot of I'm an enlightened centrist majoritarian populist. So
yeah,
not a socialist and not a libertarian.
Put your YouTube channel in chat so that people
can
find you.
Yes,
please.
Will do.
Okay.
But I appreciate
next.
everyone. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
After my pamphlet to be a libertarian.
Abandoning everyone. God damn it. Stick around. All right. Then next we will go to Fanatic. Fanatic, you had a time here, right? You had an experience. I'm glad you made it through, right? And still have not run away from my channel. Thank you, buddy, for being around.
Well, just to be clear, you know, as the Bible says, render to Caesar those that are Caesar, render to God that which is his. And so I look at it and I think that each place I compartmentalize. And I think this space has its own reasons to be here. I just have to adjust to it and just be annoyed at everybody for being an idiot. But at the same time, it is rather entertaining. I totally get that. And I like being a part of that. And I think everyone else should, because sometimes, you know, you want to take a break. And I think my stream enjoys it. I think they like taking a break from just being surrounded by like nonstop amazing takes in intelligence. Every now and then you want to like hear intelligence contrasted against the lesser minds. And I think that's the purpose of coming here and engaging in these panels. And it was really good for them, you know, because I think it also helps them to appreciate, you know, what a great mind I have, because nothing shows up a counterfeit like the real thing. And I think when they see this counterfeit, some people are watching these streams and they're looking at all that nonsense, and then they listen to me talk and it's just like, oh no, this is genius. This is intelligent. This is something that I can actually subscribe to. And I appreciate the people who subscribed during this panel. You can find me at twitch.tv/Mr. Fanatic. Don't subscribe to me, subscribe to Prime. I do the panel, the nigga panel on Tuesdays from 5 to 7 Pacific Standard, and then I do the Fanatic panel on Wednesdays from 5 to 8, 5:30 to 8:30.
What panel do you do on Tuesdays?
It's called the nigga panel.
Can I get on that? Or
unfortunately, I don't think you're one of those. So yeah, you don't qualify. Unfortunately, maybe I don't think that'll ever happen. But you know what? Listen, I believe in God and I believe in miracles.
Amen.
Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, but yeah, look, yeah, y'all can find me at the panels. You can always reach out to me. My Discord is typically open. My Twitter is Mr. Fanatic. But don't do any of that stuff. I'll tell you what you want to do. Listen to my latest album. It's called Pneumatic, Pneumatiq. The artist name is Fanatic. And you listen to that album, and then you tell me that my music isn't better than any takes that you heard on this panel, even the ones that came from Amazing Me. Okay, I'm dead serious. I think my music is actually A100. I'm actually a beast on this piano. God is good, and He gifted me with some skills, and I use it to make music. All right,
this is true.
We may have to have a piano off back here on.
Oh no, you don't want those. You don't want that action. Look, I'll play with you. Yeah, we can do some music, but I promise you don't want those problems, bro. I got the best ear on Twitch.
All right. Okay. All right. Paul says he wants that smoke. All right, let's go to Doobie, right? Speaking of a person who's been trying to get their black card for quite a long time, right? Maybe one day. But our Dark Lord and Savior.
Hold on.
Thank you.
I was born with a black card. I'm 6% sub-Saharan African. I've shown you this. Rarely verified it, you know, on streams that I got the pass. I was born with it. I should be giving you guys passes. Don't fuck with me.
Doobie, that
beyond
6% does not increase the
look,
girth, bro. Please stop.
6% stops. Okay, now you're making racist, stereotypical jokes about black people. This is like internalized racism. Don't make Prime feel that way because he doesn't measure up. Okay, that's really
What?
fucked up.
No, fuck you.
Look, I'm just saying, not all black men have that. You know, it's Prime. I support you. So yeah, Doobie, Discord.gg/politics. Best and biggest politics ever on Discord. Yeah, you'll find me there.
Okay. All right. Well, I put his link in chat. I'm gonna fucking delete that message. Anyway, let's keep going. Everyone, seriously, thank you so much for being here. This was a fun conversation at times. But it was a conversation any which way, and I'd be happy to reach out to all of you again in the future. We're gonna go to open our walk on panel right now. If anyone here wants to join us, that'd be amazing. But if not, that's okay. Thanks for your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion for my community. I know they appreciate you so much as I do. Have a good one. Bye. God. Oh my God, they're gone.